Mets manager Buck Showalter and general manager Billy Eppler met with the media today to discuss their completed coaching staff and once again proved that the Mets are in great hands when it comes to their leadership. I'm going to discuss that and my 5 key takeaways on today's episode of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're listening to Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For those of you who don't know, I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing about the Mets at justbaseball.com. Now, this press conference today was all about the coaching staff. So let's start there. My first takeaway is the Mets have a very well-rounded coaching staff. Buck Showalter was outlaying, all the responsibilities for the coaches that they currently have. They have all their bases covered. You have Joey Cora, the third base coach, who's also going to be coaching the infielders. Wayne Kirby, who's going to coach first, is going to coach the outfielders. Glenn Sherlock, the new bench coach, will be in charge of the catchers. You have Eric Chavez, the hitting coach, and the new assistant hitting coach, Jeremy Barnes, which obviously are going to be coaching the hitters. That's pretty, self-explanatory, as is Jeremy Hefner as the pitching coach and Craig Bjornson as the bullpen coach. You had the base running, which he said was going to be handled by Wayne Kirby and Joey Cora. And then from there, Buck Showalter said he'd pick up the pieces. There are a couple other members of the staff that weren't talked about today. Ricky Meinhold, who is the minor league coordinator. You got Brian Schneider, who's also supposed to be a catching coach and the major league field coordinator, but I'm not sure if they are in the dugout during games. That's, I guess, to be decided. There was a lot of talk about not wanting to hire too many guys to take these jobs. That was something that was mentioned. Billy Eppler said that one thing we are both really aware of is how players perceive things, how they feel, and when you have a lot of different faces, everybody's new, or the vast majority of people are new, that can lead to potentially a little bit of discomfort. We wanted to make sure that we were slower in the process. We didn't want to roll out 11 or 12 people in our coaching staff. They wanted to make sure there was purpose behind every hire. This is probably based on previous reports that they were going to hire multiple assistant hitting coaches, maybe multiple assistant pitching coaches, although they do still have Jeremy Accardo and Jeremy Barnes in those assistant roles to the hitting and the pitching side. This is not a stat that is just completely jam-packed with coaches. And there was a thought that there would be a couple more hires to be made. And I'm cool with the Mets, waiting and seeing if they need to make another hire, because that does make sense. You don't want to overwhelm the players. And there's already a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So I think that is a good decision. You still have all the analytics people. There is a lot of different, facets of the organization producing information for the major league club that has to be dissected. I think they have enough coaches on staff that can help the players with all that information. Bottom line, they're in good hands. But I want to focus in on some of the individual coaches that these guys spoke about in this press conference. The first being Glenn Sherlock, the new bench coach and also a returning coach, as Sherlock was previously the third base coach, if I'm not mistaken, a couple years back from the New York Mets. So one of the things that Showalter was very clear on is that he is really respected for his ability to be that catching coach, to really be in charge of that room. That's going to be his main responsibility, according to Buck Showalter. But he also said that Sherlock has great experience coaching the bases, the running game, the bullpen. He said everyone was really excited to bring him back into the fold. This is a good baseball man, as Showalter said. And an interesting anecdote that he shared on this press conference was that in 1989, he was a player coach in Albany for Buck Showalter. Sherlock was. And he says that he's still mad at him because he had to be activated for a game. And Jim Larynx, I believe you say, critiqued Sherlock's catching. But it's more the story that he told was not as interesting as the way that Buck Showalter told the story. And so you just already feel that camaraderie that Showalter is going to have with his coaches, with the players. You just you can tell that if you're in the room with Buck Showalter, you're gonna like him. He's just a likable dude, and I think that goes a long way in management. I really do. I think having a more productive, office can stem from having a manager that people can come up to and can communicate with. I think that's a better style at times than the boss that puts their foot down and everyone's scared of. Although that can produce results as well, it's different styles. I think that Buck Showalter as someone that's going to be your best friend as the coach. Everyone's going to love him. I think that's good for this team, and I think that he has enough quality coaches around him that this team is going to be well coached across the board. When it comes to Eric Chavez, this was a hitting coach that I think is maybe the most. I mean, he's the most inexperienced hire they made. Maybe has, I don't know. Can you have upside as a coach? I guess you can. I'm still of the opinion that there's no way to evaluate what a coach really brings to the table unless you're behind the scenes. So for me to say that a coach has upside feels weird coming out of my mouth, but I do believe that is the case with Eric Chavez in that he is an up and coming coach who a lot of people in the industry respect, and they are really thrilled about having him in this role. One of the things that they said when it came to hiring Chavez was they wanted someone who has lived and died in the batter's box, as Eric Chavez has a long big league career where he was a star, one of the best players on really good Oakland teams. That's good to have that experience in their back pocket. And also, they wanted to be able to mix and match and have a coach that brings a technical aspect to the hitters. And that is why they brought in Jeremy Barnes as the assistant hitting coach. And how they came across that hire is they asked Eric Chavez what he felt like he was lacking and what he'd like to see, brought to the table. And he said that he would like someone that was good at swing analysis, the batted ball information, someone that has that background with the modern tools of hitting, a good technical coach. And that's what Barnes is. It's very similar to the type of coach that Jeremy Hefner is, someone that can process the analytics. And I think Eric Chavez is learning, and he wanted somebody else who's really adept at that to help him along with that process. So the two of them together, I think that is a very interesting composition when it comes to the hitting coaches this time. We obviously know that was a big part of the last season, the Mets firing Chili Davis and bringing in Coach Q Quattlebaum. It didn't quite work out. They went more analytically driven. I think this is maybe a better mixing and matching because I think Chavez is more similar to Chili Davis being, former star players that know the mindset that a hitter needs. But I think Chavez is younger, maybe more adept at getting this new information and putting it into effect. And with Barnes, they have that other coach that's really good at that. That combination, I think, should prove to be a good one for this Mets team. And just overall, you look at this group. I mean, Craig Bjornson. I implore all you to Google this guy. He's funny. I mean, not only is his name a little bit unique, but just look at this guy. He's a big dude with a big personality that just jumps off of Google Images. And so you pair that with Buck Showalter, who I already said I think players are going to love. You have the experience-based coaches and bench coach with Sherlock, Kirby, and Cora. You have these younger coaches when it comes to the hitting coaches and the pitching coaches with Hefner, Accardo, Chavez, Barnes. I just like the mix of this group. As I said at the top, it's a well-rounded coaching staff. I think the Mets are in great hands, and they're going for it this year. And I think they have the coaches that will help these players accomplish a lot. But what I really was blown away with from watching this press conference was the camaraderie between Billy Eppler and Buck Showalter. I want to talk about that more in just a minute. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. And if yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because they taste so good, you're going to want to eat them. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy, Built Bars are soft, they're easy to chew, and they come covered in 100% chocolate. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. And there's so many flavors to choose from, whether it's the coconut almond bar, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, my personal favorite, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors. So make sure you check out their site often to see what's new. Go to built.com. Make sure you use the promo code LOCK15 and you're going to get 15% off your next order. Again, that is promo code LOCK15 or 15% off at built.com. Now, one of the things that just jumped off the screen to me today when I was watching this press conference between Buck Showalter and Billy Eppler is the way they were interacting with each other. It just seemed like the camaraderie was there. They were really enjoying each other's company, enjoying each other's jokes, smiling, laughing, and that can go a long way. I feel like the Mets over the past couple of years, if you really look into it, there hasn't been that clear symbiotic relationship between manager and GM. You have Sandy Alderson is the one that hires Mickey Callaway. He steps down. Bernie Van Wagenen inherits Callaway as a manager. Then you have Callaway, gets fired, and Brody hires Carlos Beltran. Then Beltran has to step down, and then suddenly it's Rojas and Brody that are together. Not necessarily Brody's first choice. Then Brody's out, but Rojas is still in, and you bring in these new general managers, and it just hasn't been aligned. And now you had the proper process play out, which is why, even though I liked Rojas as a manager, even though I know a lot of Mets fans didn't, I was okay with them firing him because it was starting anew. And that's what you have now. Billy Eppler gets hired. He goes through the process. He hires Showalter. There is that chain of command, but there's also that, relationship there. There is a past relationship that they are building off of. They both were with the Yankees. There is that where they can, work with each other, and it feels like they enjoy working with each other. One of the things that Billy Eppler joked about was that, what did he learn about Buck Showalter? He said he learned that Buck is really good at Zoom, and they were talking about Buck Showalter had learned how to change his background so all you could see was him and not what was going on behind him. And it's one of those things where it's an inside joke that wasn't necessarily hilarious if you're watching the press conference, but seeing the two of them smiling, going back and forth, I liked that. And also, he was asked, what he learned about Buck, and he said he hadn't really learned anything, more reinforced what he knew about Buck Showalter, the passion that he has for the job. And I think Showalter said he verified, or Eppler had been verifying whatever he was thinking. They're just on the same page. And he even said that he is looking forward to each Zoom call with Billy Eppler and, with the Mets brass as they're going through the process of their offseason right now. So I thought that was really something that is a good sign for the Mets moving forward, that you have that connection, because nowadays Billy Eppler, as a modern day GM, he's going to be in that clubhouse. Brody Van Wagenen was in that clubhouse. I'm sure Zach Scott was in that clubhouse, and he's part of bringing all these different departments together. And if those two are aligned, that is huge for the Mets, not only in 2022, but moving forward, because this could be the alignment for 5 years. Why not? Right? I mean, unless Buck Showalter wins a World Series and he wants to ride off into the sunset, I would like to see a group stay together and try to build a foundation, as opposed to every other year we're going through either a GM search or a manager search, or as it was this offseason, both. So I really appreciated that. There was also another joke that Showalter said near the end of the press conference. They were talking about, had he found a residence in St. Lucie, or when was going to go down to St. Lucie. And they were talking about how both of them, the Epplers and the Showalters, were house hunting at the same time. And Showalter joked about not wanting to, take a 4-bedroom house for Billy Eppler and all his kids when he could find one that might make more sense for him and his wife. So just little things like that make you feel good about what's going on in that Mets office day to day. Because kind of like I was referencing in the last segment, talking about Showalter and how players are going to like, playing for him, and how he can be a friend to them. Happy people, I feel like, are more productive. And it seemed like the two of them are thrilled that they are in the positions that they're in. And both of them are similar in the sense that they had a lot of experience. They were at a point in their careers where they might not have gotten another opportunity. I feel like both of them are relishing this opportunity to prove that they're good at their jobs. And so I think that is a really a good thing for the Mets moving forward. Also, another thing that I took away from this press conference is the same thing I've taken away from every press conference that Billy Eppler has been a part of, which is that his experience is so much greater than that of the last GMs the Mets have had, and Brody, and Porter, Scott, all of them. This is a guy that's been around the block. And I think that is something that you grow to appreciate when you've seen novice GMs up there. There was one quote that really stood out to me, maybe more than anything else in the press conference. And that was when he was almost baited into a question where a reporter asked him if this was a playoff team, if this team has championship timber, whatever the hell that is. And it's setting him up to say, hey, we're gonna win it all. Hey, we're gonna win the division. Hey, come get us, right? Where Brody Van Wagen a couple years ago in 2019, after he signed Jed Lowry, look how much that worked out for the Mets. We had the best team in the East. Come get us. And then halfway through the season, he said, hey, they got us. Like that was this false bravado. And I know that at the time that team looked good on paper. But what I liked about Billy Epler's answer to the question today that was setting him up for a similar type of answer, he said, this club is well positioned now as is. Perfect. Well positioned. Professional answer. It's a good team. And he reiterated that multiple times, but then he said, it can always be better. That's some of my own wiring is to always seek improvement in all aspects. Where we can find opportunities to be better, we will explore those and seize those opportunities as they come. So it's in a sense, hey, we know we're in good shape. We just got Max Scherzer, Mark Canha, Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar. We still have a team that had Jacob deGrom, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo on it. We got a roster that can win. But we're not taking our foot off the gas. We're not just thinking, all right, we're done. They're looking at all their options to improve this team. And throughout this season, they're going to continue to take a level headed approach to managing this team. Whereas I feel like the come get us Mets with Jeff Wilpon and Bertie Van Wagenen flying by the seat of their pants, they were just like, hey, we're great. Oh, it's not working. Panic. What do we do? And just constantly making panic moves. And I think Billy Epler has the experience to not only be present in the moment and know what the team has, but also be looking towards the future and have an eye towards where the Mets have to be in 2023 and beyond as well. You always want to give yourself a chance to win a World Series, but I feel like the boxes are going to be checked across the board more with Billy Epler than any of the Mets past GMs, except for maybe, Sandy Alderson in the early 2010s when he was still, more in his prime and he formed a really good front office around him at that juncture. But I really think the experience is great. And one last thing I'll take on that is there was discussion about the Eric Chavez hire and whether there was any problems getting the Yankees to allow him to interview and take the position. And what was interesting about Billy Epler's answer is that, it played out a little bit differently in the papers. But what actually happened was before he even got hired by the Yankees, Brian Cashman had spoke with Billy Epler about Chavez, probably doing some background himself because Epler and Chavez have a really great relationship. And they talked about the possibility if there was a position open that would be higher than the assistant hitting coach, that he would have that opportunity to take a job with the Mets. So that was really, some groundwork that was laid when he was hired by the Yankees before he even had the opportunity to interview with the Mets. And that speaks to Epler's experience, his relationships around the game, that he was able to have those conversations with Brian Cashman, and that I'm sure he has a really good working relationship with most of the other 29 GMs in the sport. And that is only going to help the Mets when they are in trade talks and all these other things that will, take place throughout the regular season, the offseason, and beyond. But I still have another takeaway, and really it's more looking ahead now as Showalter and Eppler talked about the upcoming season. Also, we have some news when it comes to the lockout with the MLBPA and Major League Baseball meeting and hopefully working towards a resolution. We'll get to all of that in just a minute. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march through the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website. So sign up today and you'll receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit just by using our promo code Locked On. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. Bet online, where the game starts. So let's start off talking about the latest when it comes to the lockout, because that is the most pressing news in Major League Baseball. Are we going to have a season? When's the season going to start? I'm not going to draw any, sweeping conclusions from what has been the first real meeting between the MLBPA and Major League Baseball over the past couple of months. But they met. They met today. They met on Monday and they met for more than 7 minutes. So that's a big change. They actually met for a couple of hours and the players had some concessions when it came to age of free agency, which was a big topic. And also, when it came to splitting the revenue. So these are positive steps. But I'm sure those concessions came with demands. And now the MLB has to get together with the owners and discuss things. And then tomorrow, or today, as you're listening to this on Tuesday, they will meet again 2 days in a row. Maybe, just maybe, these sides won't break off from these meetings in anger and posturing, and they'll continue to work together because the only way you're going to get an agreement is by talking to each other and working towards one. And I hate this idea that, all right, deadlines cause pressure. It's stupid. And all you're doing, if you're the owners, the players, whatever, is you're hurting the fans who give you the money in the first place. So, what Major League Baseball has to do, allow all these sides to come together. They have to continue to work together through this process. The fact that there's a second meeting 2 days in a row, great step. But we cannot take any real, conclusion from that because we don't know what's going on with these meetings, and there still hasn't been a lot reported. It's not like these sides have been reported to be close. Hopefully, they're getting closer though, and that is a positive development. But with that, Billy Eppler and Buck Showalter were asked about, where their offseason goes from here. How are they going to get ready for the season? For Billy Eppler, he was sort of outlaying, what his process has been like since taking over the job. He gets hired. First thing is player acquisitions, and that's what he dove into. Then it was hire a manager. That's what they dove into. Then it was fill out a coaching staff. Now he said in the coming weeks, he can focus on other things. He has time to connect with player development, amateur scouting, pro scouting, international scouting, analytics, performance science, the general front office and baseball operations, and the baseball systems groups. That's what he said he's going to be doing in the coming weeks. As he said, he will not be bored as this lockout continues. So Billy Eppler still has a full plate. Buck Showalter is being part of all those same types of conversations and process and getting integrated with the franchise. They're going to be heading towards Port St. Lucie soon. Buck Showalter can start to set up camp. You can start to have some of the minor league players, the prospects come in and be part of some instructions. You have to wait. All the players on the 40-man roster, all the major league players are in that lockout. So no one's going to show up. There's no communication until that lockout ends. But hopefully, spring training will begin at some point in February. You would hope in the middle of February, pitchers and catchers report as usual, but that's very optimistic. And what Buck Showalter said is they are preparing for everything. They're preparing for any different week that they might have to start, the timetable that can change. The biggest problem, as he said, and the biggest part of spring training is getting pitchers stretched out and ready. And that's obviously a huge part of laying out the groundwork for camp and how they're going to structure everything. Buck Showalter is doing everything he can to be ready for whatever the league throws at them, and they will adjust. Overall, when it comes to this meeting with the media, I once again came away very impressed with both Showalter and Eppler. The Mets are in great hands, and moving forward, I think that this is just going to come down to the normal ebbs and flows of a season. Can the Mets stay healthy? Can their players perform? But I don't think that the players are going to have any disadvantage by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to being prepared. I think that the coaching, I think the front office is going to put this team in the best position possible to win. And then it's on the players to perform. And the Mets has some damn good players that can perform, which hopefully will result in a lot of victories and maybe an NL East title, if nothing else. Regardless, though, that's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. We are getting very close to the Super Bowl. A couple of weeks left. You want to be listening to Locked On Bets, which is hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling for the best gambling advice you're going to find. You can follow Locked On Bets wherever you get podcasts.